July 31st, 2020. The world was on fire. We were in the middle of a global pandemic and the massive national conversation about racial injustice. Inside the NBA bubble in Orlando, the atmosphere was heavy. Every player, coach, and ref were wearing Black Lives Matter shirts. As the national anthem began, everyone, and I mean everyone, took a knee in a unified front. But if you pan the camera to the Orlando Magic sideline, you see one man, number one, standing tall in his white jersey. No kneeling, no press test shirt, just Jonathan Isaac. To what extent are we responsible to act against injustice? Does responsibility mean joining the group, or does it mean standing for personal truth? Today, we're looking at the lone stand of Jonathan Isaac. To understand this moment, we have to look at the context. According to Tim, reporting for ESPN, Isaac was the sole player in the entire arena to remain standing that day. At the time, the injustice at the center of everyone's mind was systematic racism and police brutality, sparked by the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. The NBA's response was collective one. But here is why the moral complexity comes in. Dave Cernan, writing for The National, argued that standing alone in the moment actually undermines the collective responsibility to fight racism. For Zernan's perspective, the injustice of racism is so massive that the individual responsibility to join the movement, and that by standing out, Isaac was distracting the real issue. This brings up our first big question. Is our responsibility to the movement or to ourselves? So why did he do it? To find out, we have to look at Isaac's own words. In his memoir, Why I Stand, by Jonathan Isaac, explains that his decision wasn't about ignoring racial injustice. Instead, he believed that the true answer to the world's problems wasn't a political slogan, but his Christian faith. He felt a responsibility to point people towards what he called a higher power by acting on the belief that came with a massive price. In the Sunday special interview with Ben Shapiro, Isaac discussed the intense Blackish. So why did he do it? To find out, we have to look at Isaac's own words. In his memoir, Why I Stand, by Jonathan Isaac, explains that his decision wasn't about ignoring racial injustice. Instead, he believed that the true answer to the world's problems wasn't a political slogan, but his Christian faith. He felt a responsibility to point people towards what he called a higher power by acting on the belief that came with a massive price. In the Sunday special interview with Ben Shapiro, Isaac discussed the intense Blackish backlash he faced. He was called names on social media, criticized by analysts, and felt immense pressure of the high-end job where your brand is everything. This is a key part of our essential questioning. Acting against what you perceive as injustice, in this case, the injustice of being forced into joining a movement you don't fully get behind, carries real consequences. Isaac's choice to lose his public favor over keeping his integrity. It is easy to look at this and just say he was being difficult, but psychology tells us what Isaac did is actually one of the hardest things a human can do. I looked into a famous academic study by Solomon Asch titled Opinions and Social Pressure. Asch conducted an experiment showing that most people will actually give a wrong answer just to fit in with the group. This is called conformality. When we apply this to Isaac, we see that the injustice isn't just about politics. It is about the psychological pressure to give up your individual thoughts. Asch's research suggests that our greatest responsibility might actually be residing the urge to conform, because we can't stand for what we believe as individuals. We can't truly be responsible for anything. So, to what extent are we responsible to act against injustice? Through researching Jonathan Isaac, I realized that responsibility is nuanced. We are definitely responsible for fighting systematic unfairness, like racism Zern pointed out, but we are also responsible for fighting our own moral autonomy, the idea that we shouldn't just do things because everyone else is doing it. Jonathan Isaac's stance teaches us that responsibility isn't one-size-fits-all type of thing. Sometimes acting against injustice means joining a march of thousands, but sometimes it looks lone, like a man in a white jersey standing still while the rest of the world takes a knee. In the end, we are all responsible for our actions. but we're even more responsible for the reasons behind them. Thanks for listening to The Lone Stand. I'm Trayvon Robinson.